I looked up to read the expression on her face. Her breathing had quickened slightly, though it remained steady and calm. As I watched her, I could see the subtle signs of her response, and I realized that I had not yet given that part of her the gentle attention it deserved. Remembering this, I knelt beside her and brushed a soft, lingering kiss against her, a quiet gesture meant to acknowledge her growing anticipation rather than overwhelm it. Sylvia jolted as though a sudden surge of energy had passed through her. Her eyes flew open, surprise written plainly across her face. I instinctively began to draw back, but she reached for me and pulled my head close against her, holding me there with unexpected strength. Just as quickly, she relaxed again, and before long she was sighing softly, calm and content once more. I lingered there again, my attention focused on that sensitive spot, drawing gently at it while my tongue traced slow, careful circles around the surrounding skin. A quiet sound of pleasure slipped from her lips, urging me to continue. My other hand moved upward, finding its counterpart, and I gave it a light, playful pull. The response was immediate, her breath caught, followed by another soft sound of approval. I continued with a delicate rhythm, my fingers moving in small, teasing motions, occasionally adding a gentle squeeze. Each time I did, she reacted with another breathy murmur, clearly enjoying every moment. "Please, a little more, yes," with greater firmness, she murmured softly, her voice unsteady with sensation. I could not tell which touch she meant, whether it was the one guided by my lips or the one held gently beneath my fingertips. Unwilling to disappoint her, I adjusted both, deepening my attention and care. Every movement became deliberate and harmonized, each action flowing seamlessly into the next. Gentle pressure alternated with softer moments, creating a contrast that heightened her response. A brief, playful squeeze followed by a renewed focus elsewhere kept her senses alert and engaged. Every motion, pressing, tracing, guiding, and exploring worked together in quiet coordination, building steadily toward a deeper sense of pleasure and connection. "Oh yes, that feels wonderful. Please, don't stop." I couldn't bring myself to stop. Instead, I continued, my attention growing more deliberate and intense. I noticed movement at the edge of my vision and realized her body was responding in subtle ways, her hips rising and falling almost imperceptibly, perfectly in rhythm with each measured breath she drew in. "Goodness, yes, more, a little stronger," she urged, a note of command in her voice that I didn't dare ignore. Still, I hesitated for a moment. What I wanted to do next required me to reposition myself, and she was just out of reach. "Just a moment, please," I murmured gently. "I need to adjust you slightly." "Yes," she replied at once, her voice tight with anticipation. "Please, hurry." Moving as quickly as I could, yet with all the care I could gather, I drew both of my legs up onto the couch and gently rolled her onto her side. Once she was settled there, I leaned closer, lowering my face to the warm curve of her shoulder and collarbone. At the same time, my free hand continued its slow, practiced motions, circling and pressing with the same attention and rhythm I had used moments before. The coordination of movement seemed to please her, and I focused on maintaining that steady, attentive balance. She murmured, "Yes, that's very good." Her legs were parted again, resting comfortably on the cushions. I focused all of my attention on her delicate curves and the surrounding areas of her chest, moving with careful, attentive motions. The longer I continued, the quicker her breathing became, accompanied by a gentle, restless movement of her hips. After some time, she released a quiet, breathy sound, betraying how deeply she was enjoying the moment. "Please, don't stop, just like that," she murmured softly, her voice urging me to continue. I wasn't entirely sure where she wanted my attention, so I began by gently exploring her upper body, letting my affection wander from the sides of her neck, where she responded with soft, breathy sounds, down to the small, warm curve of her midsection, which drew a stronger reaction from her. I lingered everywhere in between that I could reach, using a careful mix of tender kisses, light touches, and attentive movements, letting her responses guide me as I went. "Yes, please, more, even more, lower, a little lower, don't stop, keep going." I moved lower still, placing gentle kisses along the way, until my gaze rested near the edge of a small flush of color on her skin. Sweat poured from my forehead and down my face, the lingering sting in my eyes a sharp reminder that my hands would soon be too occupied to help. I gave my face one last careful wipe, then closed my eyes. From that moment on, sight would no longer guide me. I would have to rely entirely on touch, on sensation alone, moving forward without any visual cues to guide the way. I had a fairly good sense of what she was hoping for, shaped largely by articles I had read over the years in magazines like Playboy and Penthouse. Quietly, I resolved not to let her down. At the same time, I searched my memory for any practical guidance on how to proceed. I had no real experience to rely on, and whatever I attempted would be guided more by instinct than knowledge. Still, I was determined to do my best. There was also no practical way of reaching the place she wanted me to attend to while she remained positioned as she was. I paused briefly, considering how best to proceed without causing her any discomfort or doing something she had not clearly asked for. After a few more soft kisses and playful nips, I took hold of her legs with one hand and slipped my other arm behind her back. Moving quickly but with care and tenderness, I guided her into position, leaning comfortably against the back of the couch, her legs draped over the front. I settled onto my knees in front of her, making sure she was supported and at ease. She opened her eyes and carefully took in my position relative to hers. Then she met my gaze and gave voice to her continuing desire. "Yes, please, go on," she urged. That unmistakable note of command was there again in her voice. It seemed to rise and fall with what she wanted and how strongly she wanted it, sometimes firm and insistent, sometimes softer, but always clear. I took one graceful leg in each hand and lifted them gently upward and apart until they rested on my shoulders, her knees bent and her legs loosely draped around my neck. Supporting her from beneath, I drew her closer with careful, steady movements. I opened my eyes only briefly to guide myself, bringing us close enough that I could feel her warmth and breath, the moment charged with quiet intensity and anticipation. I could feel the intense warmth of her desire as the tip of my tongue brushed lightly against the inside of her left thigh, just beneath where her legs met. I was prepared for the sudden movement this time and had my arms firmly secured around her legs. Another brief, unexpected touch along her right thigh brought about the same reaction. Her body lifted and dropped again with surprising strength. She was far more powerful than she appeared. Still, my grip held steady, my arms locked around her legs to keep her in place. I had positioned myself carefully, arms wrapped across the tops of her legs and hands holding firmly at her hips. She could shift slightly, but her legs remained secure, unlikely to move unless my strength failed before hers did. My movements became deliberately unpredictable, quick and fleeting, with no pattern she could easily anticipate. Unlike the slow, careful attention I had given her earlier, I wanted her senses kept off balance, unable to guess what would come next. I shifted my position slightly from side to side, allowing my attention to brush along her inner legs, drawing ever closer with each pass, first one side, then the other. Each movement narrowed the distance, building anticipation without quite fulfilling it. I knew I was prolonging the moment on purpose, testing her patience by offering everything except the one thing she most desired. "Please, please, Nick, no more teasing," she pleaded softly. The earlier note of command had faded, replaced by a voice heavy with longing and an unmistakable hope that he would finally act. I traced a slow path upward along her thighs with gentle kisses, lingering with care and curiosity. I explored delicately at the edges with the lightest touch, taking my time, gradually drawing closer to the center as if guided by instinct rather than intent. At last, with a tentative brush, I discovered the warmth she held there. What greeted me was a heady sweetness, a warmth both inviting and profound, something deeply personal, freely given. It felt like a quiet offering, rich with trust and longing, an intimacy beyond words. To share in that closeness, to experience her in that moment, was to be welcomed into the most private expression she could offer. I brushed my tongue lightly against the place she had so clearly offered. To my surprise, she did not move so much as a fraction of an inch. Every part of her awareness seemed completely absorbed in what was now unfolding. From her lips came a faint, almost imperceptible hum, a soft sound that revealed far more than words ever could. A single, tentative movement was nearly enough to make me lose my hold on her legs. She reacted instantly, her body arching upward, hips pressing forward as she drew me in closer. In one fluid motion her thighs closed around me, her knees bending until her legs were locked behind my head, holding me there with unmistakable urgency. Using my arms and hands, I managed to shift my head just enough to draw a proper breath again. Still, the pressure of her locked legs around me was unwavering, firm and insistent, and my face was being guided steadily closer to her most intimate place. I extended my tongue slightly and brushed it against the soft curve of her lower contours. Once I had found my bearings, I traced a slow, careful path upward, guided more by instinct than sight, until I felt a familiar point of firmness beneath my touch. Maintaining that same gentle pace, I continued the upward motion, allowing my tongue to pass over that sensitive place and along the sheltering fold above it. She hummed almost without pause, breaking only briefly to draw a breath. The sound remained soft and subdued, its tone and pitch shifting only by the slightest degrees, like a gentle, continuous murmur. I let my tongue trace a slow, deliberate path downward, maintaining the lightest contact, more a suggestion than a touch. I lingered briefly when I sensed a hint of warmth, then retraced my path upward again, careful to keep the pressure gentle and the rhythm unhurried, as if drawing out the moment rather than rushing it. For the next few minutes, I explored her slowly and attentively, letting my movements wander with gentle care, gliding up and down and from side to side. The soft humming she made gradually grew louder, a quiet expression of pleasure, as my steady, unhurried pace continued to nurture the desire building within her. I let my tongue flatten slightly as it traced slow, deliberate circles, exploring her with growing confidence. The gentle struggle between my posture and her grip continued, yet my movements became more assured. Gradually, I ventured lower, guided by instinct, until I could sense the warmth and closeness that spoke clearly of her rising desire.